Good morning, everyone. I am Janina and I will be your host for this morning. Welcome to our second TechX event for this year. Last August 5, we talked about the importance of data science in the fourth industrial revolution, wherein we featured Angela Chen of Escolabs. This morning, we are going to talk about an equally exciting topic as well, which is artificial intelligence. TechX is organized by the FEU Innovation and Entrepreneurship Directorate. So just to give you a quick background about the INE office, let me share with you a brief presentation. So the FEU Institute of Technology, Innovation and Entrepreneurship Directorate, we believe that the nation building is best achieved through solving society's biggest problems and through creating jobs using technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. So our mission is to actually create the next generation of nation builders by creating innovators, technologists, and entrepreneurs. So our vision is to be the Philippines' most innovative and entrepreneurial academic institution. So how are we measuring this vision? So you have four key success metrics. So first is the number of tech startup companies established. So we want to be able to help um, those um, those students who have like promising ideas to be able to run them through the journey of becoming full-fledged companies. So second would be the number of tech startups funded. So we wanted to be able to create that ecosystem that will help them or help them connect to investors that will enable innovation among the university. And the third pillar or the third metric would be the number of jobs created. Of course, one of the most important success metrics would be the number of job opportunities provided by those businesses established. And lastly, would be the number of patents applied for. So this is actually for academic research that doesn't go directly into the entrepreneurial track, but we want to actually create an AI research capacity for the university in order for us to create more AI scientists and engineers. So the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Directorate has four major functions. So the first one would be the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Curricular Program. So these are the topics infused in the classes of the students, such as lean startup principles, technopreneurship, and then design thinking. And the second one would be the Innovation Ventures Development Programs. So the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Directorate would want to be able to provide formal and systematic training for students who would want to become entrepreneurs, to be able to provide that training, access to mentorship, access to the ecosystem in order for them to be able to work on their ideas, in order to receive support, in order to have access to the ecosystem that we have built so that they can work on these ideas and to be able to transform these ideas hopefully into successful business ventures. The third one would be the FEU Venture Capital Investment Fund. So I was mentioning that one of the success metrics is to actually have startups that are funded So we want to be able to help fund promising startups. And the last one would be the research and technology transfer. So this is actually the institutional effort to work on emerging technologies and lead technologies such as AI, drone technology, data science, and blockchain. So the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Directorate actually has partnered with one of the most successful and one of the most prestigious startup incubators in the country, which is the Asian Institute of Management Dado Banatao Incubator. So through this partnership, we are we have launched at least six initial programs that caters to our students. And first one would be the TechX, which is happening today. So recently we had a session on data science. Now we're having a session on artificial intelligence because in this event we want to talk about emerging technologies, deep technologies that is relevant to the fourth industrial revolution. Second one would be Unmask. So this is one of the flagship events wherein we want to feature Unmask, inspiring stories of entrepreneurs so that we inspire more young people to actually take entrepreneurship. So the session that we had about 2 weeks ago, we featured Angeline Tam of Angkas, Ralph Layosa of Some Asia Holdings, also a young entrepreneur from Gensan. And then one of the major programs that we're offering is the FEU Tech Startup Academy. So this is actually a new OJT track wherein we want to provide a platform for students, for interns to actually work and create their own startups. So traditionally, our interns would normally work for large companies, but then we want those who have promising ideas work on these ideas, pursue those ideas, and hopefully, um, as they work on those ideas, they will be able to have access to resources, to mentors, to an ecosystem that we have built so that they can hopefully transform those ideas into successful business ventures. So the program, the Startup Academy, would actually teach them the business skills, the technical and creative skills that they need in order to start their own businesses. They will have access to startup founders. They will be coached and mentored by startup founders themselves, and eventually leading to a demo day wherein they will have that opportunity to actually pitch those business ventures that they have started, and in front of this investors, and hopefully receive funding for those business ventures. And some select students will also have an opportunity to actually do apprenticeship and work closely with startup founders. So they will have that opportunity to work closely with startups and understand and immerse themselves to the startup environment in order to have better appreciation if and validation of those ideas they have started. So basically that's the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Directorate. And then here. Is my screen still on? Ah, okay. Hold on ha. Is it my slides being seen or is it Nina? Okay, so yeah. So I was mentioning earlier that we have partnered with one of the most prestigious startup incubators in the country, which is AMBBI. So this morning, we are actually joined by the executive director himself to give us a short message. Is Mr. Prim Paipon already inside? So we can actually introduce him or not yet?
Not yet.
Ah, okay. So maybe we can already first go to Ralph.
Yeah, you can introduce Ralph first.
Okay, so, but Mr. Prim will be joining us a bit later. But of course, I know all of you are excited, but just some quick reminders for our session. Um, we have a very interesting topic this morning, so I would like to encourage all our attendees to actually post their questions. So you can post your questions here on the chat box of MS Teams or through our Facebook Live, through the comment section, so we can ask them during the open forum. Okay. To formally or to officially introduce our speaker for this morning, he is a technology startup founder in the pursuit of empowering Philippine retailers with technologies and solutions such as artificial intelligence to create better customer experience. He is a magna cum laude graduate of business administration from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and he is also an alumnus of the Startup Management Program of the Asian Institute of Management and the first cohort of the AM, Dado Banatao Incubator. With his particular passion for marketing and strategic management, he founded Retailgate in his last year as a student in UP with the vision of utilizing technology towards understanding customer behavior. He has shared his passion for AI in retail through various talks and seminars, including the Retail Learning Lab of the Philippine Retailers Association, the 28th Customer Love Fest, PNA Annual Business Forum, the Dream Expo, and Fiera de Manila's Artificial Intelligence Seminar, to name a few. He was also recognized as the hashtag 7 New Wonders 2019, and through Retailgate has represented the Philippines as a delegate to the 2017 Tech in Asia Singapore and the 2019 Innovex Taipei. Retailgate is now in the pursuit of being at the forefront of smart retailing, a retailing industry powered by artificial intelligence, allowing our retailers to create an even better customer experience for their shoppers. So let us all welcome on screen our speaker, Mr. Rafael Layosa.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for that kind introduction, Janina. Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Ralph Layosa, and let me just quickly share with you my screen. Saglit lang, ha? One minute. There we go. Hope you don't mind if I confirm. Are you already seeing my screen?
Um,
Is it flashing already?
Not yet, Ralph.
Okay.
Yeah, there you
yeah.
go.
Now it's on. Is it
Yeah,
on now?
yeah,
All
we're
right.
good.
Okay, great. So, sorry, I'm not really user of Teams. That's why this is quite new to me. But anyway, so good morning. Again, I'm Ralph Layosa of Retailgate, and we are in the business of putting the AI in retail. Now, I'd like to talk to you about what we refer to as the retail revolution. And when we think of this revolution, it's really the power of artificial intelligence in shaping in store customer experience. When we think of customer experience, I'd like to think of what does it mean when we think of experience in the first place now. And I like to look at experience through the lens of our own language, no, in our mother tongue, which is in Filipino, we know is karanasan. Experience is karanasan. And what I found to be quite interesting about experience or karanasan is that in this word we can actually see two crucial parts in this. If you cut it in two parts, you have kara and nasan. So as we know, nasan is actually in Filipino means where, and Kara, on the other hand, what's very interesting is we found that Kara is actually an Italian word that means beloved. And with that, we could actually think of customer experience as that place, or is a customer experience actually where customers feel beloved. And that's why the question then becomes, how can our stores, especially for our retailers now, how can our stores be places where customers feel beloved? And this is the question that is always recurring for us at Retailgate, and how we can help our retailers shape their stores into becoming this kind of store, these places where customers feel beloved, to be able to create that customer experience. And that's very central to what we refer to as the retail revolution. And I say the central because it's actually right there in the word when we think that it's really about love, having that love for your customers in retail. Now, to go through and explore this revolution, allow me to take you on a short journey by first looking at what AI is, and let's simplify it now. Let's demystify the concept of AI, and then we'll see what AI is today in action, and then finally we'll see how AI actually can shape customer experience. So the big question always is, what is AI really? Now, we've heard of artificial intelligence. It's been a buzzword since last year. A lot of people have been talking about AI. We've heard about AI being used lately. But what is it really? Some would say that AI, when they think of AI, it's actually this. They think of the rise of the machines. Whereas myself and some people like me, we'd like to think of AI as this guy, see Baymax. I'd like to think that AI is like Baymax, the technology that's really meant to help people and make life much easier and better for people. So before we get into what AI really is, let's first clearly define what AI is not. No? First of all, automation is not artificial intelligence. No? Not all automation technologies are artificial intelligence. So this is a common misnomer kasi. So AI can enable automation. AI can make automation better. And there are some automation technologies that are powered by AI, but not all automation technologies are AI driven. So we have to be very clear on that. And the second thing is we have to be also clear that not AI is not the solution to everything. No? It's not a magic bullet that can actually solve all of our problems. Otherwise, if it were, then we wouldn't be in the problematic state we are in right now. But what AI really is it's actually a very, very powerful tool that can be used to solve very specific problems. And it just really what matters is how you're going to use that very powerful tool. But a simple picture for AI is this. This is actually my favorite picture of AI. No? So as you would see, it actually starts with statistics. Then he just added that frame. And it's actually machine learning. But when people look at it now, it's already artificial intelligence. And why is this so? Because it all starts with data. I heard that in your previous session, you talked with Angela about data science. So that's pretty much the same. We're very much aligned in that direction. But artificial intelligence really starts with the data. And this is the journey in that. I'm not sure if Angela also covered this, but the direction, the journey, and when we think of AI is we start with the data, and from that data, you're able to capture some information, usable information, in order to gain knowledge. When you find the right patterns, the right connections, towards finding some insight that will lead you to the direction that you need in order to gain wisdom and create impact. But the most crucial thing, and I'm sure Angela also mentioned this before, the most crucial thing about data and especially in artificial intelligence is the concept of garbage in, garbage out. Because artificial intelligence runs on data, the fuel of artificial intelligence is data. Therefore, what you put in will definitely affect what comes out. So if you put in corrupt data, if you put in unclean data, then you can expect inaccurate or corrupted results. So, or biased results. Actually, that's the most common thing that you would see when you have unclean data. You get biased results or skewed results from your artificial intelligence tool. And that's why we get statements such as this, that, and it's very true, of course, that for AI to change business, it needs to be fueled with quality data. Because you have to make sure that you have the right input to get the right output. And another thing we have to clarify about AI is that when we look at this data pyramid, no, or the AI pyramid, the path to AI, no, we see it starts with big data, like I said earlier, and then you progress towards analytics, data science, and then machine learning. But the AI that we actually hear of and know today is actually simply machine learning. Now, some experts would even argue that there is no true AI yet, but we already get a glimpse of AI through machine learning. So just to be clear, they're actually synonymous in today's age. AI is machine learning is AI. Now, how do we see AI being used today? Now, I'm sure some of you already might have an idea about this, or you might have heard of it, or you might be experiencing it without having realized that it is already AI in action. So, of course, the most common thing, and I'm sure you already know about this, is chatbots. Chatbots, digital assistants, such as Siri, Google Assistant, or Bixby. Or you have also tools like the Alexa of Amazon, or you have the Google Home. Okay? They're all running on AI, particularly learning from our speech. Right? We also have our favorite entertainment tools such as Netflix and Spotify. These entertainment providers that are actually using AI. AI is actually what's enabling them to provide us with recommendations based on what we are already consuming. It's actually learning from our behavior patterns as we watch more shows, watch more movies, or listen to more music, or search through playlists. The algorithm behind it is actually learning from our behavior patterns to give us recommendations. And another thing I don't know if you've already experienced this, but it's very common nowadays that when you search, when you search online, when you shop online, you might have experienced this already, that the same item that you've seen, even after you leave that e-commerce page, be it maybe Lazada, Shopee, whatever, or Zalora, whatever that is, eventually you'll start seeing the same item on other pages, be it on social media or your other websites that you might be browsing. You might have noticed you're seeing the same product again. It's like they're chasing you down. And that's also enabled by artificial intelligence because they're learning from the patterns and they're tracking our behavior online. And that's actually also what enables Google ads. That's why we're getting targeted ads specific for our profile, same as Facebook ads. No? Very interesting experience that I've had, and I'm pretty sure some of you might have also experienced this. There was a time before with my colleagues and my friends and I, we were just having a chat, you know, when we were still allowed to come together, and we were just having a discussion. Our phones were away or just in our pockets. Our laptops we weren't using our laptops, and we were talking about a certain brand. And then all of a sudden, when my colleague opened his laptop, the first ad he saw was of that brand. And we were so surprised, like, oh my gosh, what's this? And that's actually Facebook ads using artificial intelligence because they're actually listening to our conversations, not to scare you, no, but they are actually really listening on our conversations, verbal conversations, and picking up keywords. And the artificial intelligence algorithm behind Facebook ads is capturing keywords to know what to advertise to you. So even by just talking about, oh, I'd like let's say I'd like to have a beer tonight. Be sure that sooner or later within the same day you will see an ad for a beer because they're actually listening to you. So that's pretty much the common uses of AI that we're seeing today. No? We're seeing essentially with the chatbot and the recommendations, they're actually creating a convenient experience through the assistants, the virtual assistants, or a unique experience, such as the customizations, the recommendations, and it's all enabled because the tool or the algorithm, the AI algorithm is actually learning from our behavior, capturing all that data input from us and learning in the process in order to gain a better understanding of what we do and who we are. And that actually allows them to create that experience for us. But what you've seen so far is actually all done online. So then the next question that we often get is, can AI be used offline? Well, of course, the posing that question preempts the answer itself. But of course, the answer is yes. It can be used offline, and that's exactly what we do at Retailgate. And when we say AI at Retailgate, we define AI in three levels. We first use AI as artificial intelligence being the tool towards gathering actual information of what's happening inside the stores in order to generate or discover actionable insights that will help create that customer experience for our retailers to create that customer experience for their shoppers. And we do this through our software, which we call Eagle Eye. So as you would see here, we utilize existing CCTV cameras to detect people as they shop and monitor their behavior as they are shopping inside the retail store. And with that, following the same data pyramid as you see, from data to information all the way to wisdom, we also follow the same principle. No? We start by first gathering information through that technology, through Eagle Eye, through that AI engine that we've built, towards capturing that understanding of their experience in store. And from that understanding, we then are able to we help our clients identify what experience will actually address the gaps in the status quo for their shoppers in order to create a unique and better customer experience, and thereby build and nurture that loyalty in the relationship with their shoppers. So now that we've answered already how the question, how can our stores be places where customers feel beloved, by essentially creating that customer experience that's either convenient or unique, then the question becomes, how can we create these experiences where customers actually feel beloved? How do we create these convenient and unique customer experiences? And the answer to that, I'm not sure if Sir Prim is already here, but the one lesson that really stayed with us startups in the cohort of AIM is really empathy. The value of empathy. It starts with really having that deep understanding of your customer, and that's empathy. And when we think of empathy, I love the way Francis Kong puts it. It's actually not just about putting yourself in the shoes of another person, but when we think of empathy in its deepest sense, it's actually putting yourself in another person's skin. Imagine yourself being that person. That is empathy. And I'll just show you how that actually ties into what we're able to do for our clients through AI now. So when we think of a convenient customer experience, right here, what you're seeing right now is actually from an excerpt from a study that we did for a convenience store. No? And very interestingly, when we looked through this 1 week data, we found that their conversion dropped on Sunday and Tuesday. Sorry, what is conversion? Conversion is actually the percentage of total visitors that actually made a purchase. See? So in this data, we found that the conversion dropped on Sunday and Tuesday. And when we look closely into the data, we asked ourselves, what caused this now? And we found that on the same days that the conversion dropped, those are actually the same days that they had reduced personnel in store. And this is what we found to be ironic, because on those same days, they had more customers coming in. And when we probed even deeper, we found that the reason why they're doing this is because they reduce their staff based on their historical peso sales data, wherein they found that on Sundays and Tuesdays, their sales are lower than their Saturday and Monday sales. And when we ran the oh sorry, and when we ran the numbers, we actually found that every one person that they reduce from their staff actually translates to a 5% decrease in their conversion. And that's the real danger of just basing their decisions on just the peso sales data. And there is that absence of empathy because they did not see this part of the customer experience in the first place. Now let's think of unique experience. Now, what you're seeing right now is an execution that we did for a trade expo, and very interestingly, we found that the traffic in this trade expo was largely concentrated in the areas or in the exhibits where there were featured technologies, and also right here it's the retail learning lab. Of the Philippine Retailers Association, where there's having actually pocket talks, pocket seminars for people who want to learn more about retail. So these key areas where there are so much, where the traffic was concentrated, fall in technologies are an opportunity to learn. And what do they have in common? They're offering something new. And if there's one thing that really stuck with me from one of my mentors from that I met through AIM is a unique experience is in itself a self reward. This is my mentor Stuart Jameson, former managing director of Nielsen Southeast Asia, and that's really that's very true, especially in this day and age. That after a long week, when you're very tired, you just want to reward yourself, and having that unique experience is already very rewarding. No? So then now we know that we can create that customer experience in convenient and unique experience by having empathy. Now, how does that tie into the shopper journey? When we look into the shopper journey, the typical shopper journey that we're seeing since the dawn of the internet is that the typical shopper nowadays would first search online, then should they decide to visit the store, they enter the store, browse the store, try the products, and then line up and buy products. So the status quo, this status quo in the shopper journey is that the data being captured typically lies only on the extremes, where we only able to capture when people search the brand or the products and when they finally buy. But these points, these nodes in the shopper journey, when they enter, when they browse, when they try the product, and when they line up to pay, this is what we refer to as the blind side, because we're not capturing data. We're not seeing at the status quo. There's not data being captured in this part of the shopper journey. But the crucial thing about these parts of the shopper journey is that this is actually where customer experience becomes very crucial. Because from the moment the customer or the shopper enters the store and starts browsing and even trying products, up to the point when they line up in front of the cashier, every moment customer experience is influencing their decision on whether or not they will make a purchase. And the slightest off experience, upon entering, for example, when you enter and then you're not entertained by the customer service representative, or when you're browsing but you can't find the item that you need, or when you try that product but you realize it's not the right product for you, or you're not getting the right size that you want, or when you line up and it's taking you 5, 10 or so more minutes just to get that one item that you want to pay for, then that creates a sour experience. And of course, that ruins that customer experience. And chances are that purchase will already be lost. And that's exactly what we are capturing through our technology called Eagle Eye, with our AI engine. And what's very interesting about this customer experience, in particularly in retail, is that you can actually influence this customer experience through 4 levers. Now, that's the staffing, layout, merchandising, and promos. And one of the crucial things that we also learned from AIM is that this actually ties into the behavior model by BJ Fogg, wherein we can actually influence the motivation of the shoppers to make a purchase through the staff and the customer service actually that they are able to provide while shoppers are in store. And through the layout and merchandising, we are able to help address the ability to find what they're looking for. And finally, with the promos that we initiate, then the retailer can actually trigger the shoppers to finally make that purchase. So, just some key takeaways about AI. First and foremost, AI again is a tool. It's not a magic bullet that will solve all our problems, but it is a powerful tool. And one of its amazing uses is that right now we can actually really use this tool to understand our customers and ultimately make them feel beloved in our stores. And that is what we do at Retailgate, and that is why we are in the business of putting the AI in retail towards our vision of a smart retailing industry in the Philippines, where our retailers are powered by technology such as artificial intelligence to create a better and more convenient customer experience. So thank you so much. Again, I'm Ralph Layosa of Retailgate. We're in the business of putting the AI in retail. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ralph.
Mhm.
Before we proceed to our open forum and we entertain the questions from our attendees and from our moderator, I would just like to remind all our attendees to post their questions via the chat here on MS Teams or through our Facebook Live comment section so we can ask them during the open forum. And to moderate this discussion, I would like to invite on screen our Director for the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Directorate for FEUTech, Mr. Roland Garcia.
Hi guys, good morning. Good morning, Raf, for that
Ernie.
awesome presentation. I have a couple of questions myself.
Yeah.
Before we get into the questions of everyone, I think we have around a little bit short of 200, both for Facebook and here in MS Teams attending. One of the things we want to do in FEU Innovation Center is to put artificial intelligence as the institutional research agenda.
Mhm.
I think I mentioned in one of our library conversations that what we want to put up is an artificial intelligence lab because of I think there are a lot of corporations right now who might need AI scientists, AI engineers, AI analysts, programmers,
Yes.
perhaps people like you who actually can who understand AI and make sense of how to use AI. No,
Mhm.
um, but I'm really curious about this, Ralph. No, I didn't know that you started Retail Gate when you were still in college.
Yes. It was my last semester.
Yeah, and I think this is very apt for our most like 80% of our audience right now is our students. No?
Mhm.
So perhaps you can tell us a bit of a story of how you started that while you're still a student, let alone an emerging technology like AI. Like why AI out of everything?
Mhm.
All the other ideas, and how do you get started and got into Retail Gate?
All right. Well, actually, the inspiration really started back in 2015. I was a marketing intern for a certain alcoholic beverage. I think I shouldn't just name along the brand, no. But I was a marketing intern for that alcoholic beverage, and very interestingly, I still clearly remember on my first day, our brand manager told us that this brand is for the millennial male market. She was very, very particular about it. It's for the male market.
Okay.
And the intention for that brand is that the men would consume it first, and then the women will just follow. Will just copy. They would consume it then because of their male influences. No, their friends, their boyfriends or husbands, ganon.
Mm.
But what was very, I'd say ironic, but at the same time interesting, is that when I did my own trade checks in convenience stores, supermarkets, and resto bars, I saw the exact opposite. Even more so when I looked at the brand engagement online. I found that about 80 to 85% of brand engagement and consumption actually came from women. And
Baliktad.
baliktad, and the exact opposite was happening. I saw the guys buying this brand because their girlfriends wanted to try it.
Okay.
So exact opposite. And that's when I realized that okay, it's very easy to set a direction. That okay, this is what we want for our brand. But what's happening on the ground? If we don't have that visibility on the ground, then there's something missing. And then the question becomes, if there is that mismatch, what do we do? Do we change our strategy, our execution, or do we embrace the market that we've already captured and then change our execution that way to communicate to that captured market already? And that's where I realized it's very important to be able to get that visibility on the ground. What is happening on the ground? Because when you think about marketing, it's all often the big picture thinking, diba? Na what's gonna be the strategy for the whole either whole region, whole nation, and then you just cascade and execute. But what happens on the ground? That was the inspiration for that. And then in 2016, I took a technopreneurship class as an elective in UP, and then that's where the whole idea came to fruition. I keeping that pain point in mind, and then I was paired up with some engineers, and then that's where we came up with the concept of Retailgate. Actually, the initial concept was to use RFID tags and sensors.
Mm.
So initially, the plan was to track shopping carts and baskets as they move around around supermarkets. But then we realized because that in itself, that model would be very limiting because you don't always have shopping carts and baskets. You would be limited to just supermarkets by executing that way, and not and even in the supermarket, not everyone uses a shopping cart or basket. Some would even just walk in, get a few items, just carry them in their arms, and then pay. So that's when we realized, okay, this it might not be the right technology. What do we use then? And that's when we realized that the best thing to use is to capture through CCTV cameras. And then that's where we found that artificial intelligence is the way to go.
Awesome. Galing, galing. I think kasi most like it's counterculture for a college student to
Mm.
even start their own company, let alone an AI company. So and that's what I think trying to create the programs here in FEU Innovation to encourage students to at least think of starting their own company
Mm.
while they're still in college or perhaps right after college. So I think yeah. So I'm very impressed with what you've done with Retailgate, and I'm sure a lot of people look up to you, especially in this particular community that they've been hearing your story for the first time. Okay, so let's get into the questions. We have, I think, more than 10 now. At least that's what's being reported to me. Okay, so this is also another thing I want to ask you, and this is an anonymous question from I think Facebook. So how's the AI industry in the Philippines right now? What's our state of AI?
Okay, AI largely right now is being used for data science applications. In fact, our application is still in the realm of data science. It's just we're more particular about retail. No? But how is the industry? There are just a few players right now using AI. It's still very young. No, not everyone in the market is aware of. I mean, they've heard of AI, but understanding the capabilities
Yeah.
or the possibilities and the potential with AI is still growing. No? There's
Mm.
still a lot of education needed, a lot of digital transformation that needs to be done in the industry to reach that maturity level of the AI industry here in the Philippines. So I'd
Yeah.
say we're still a very we're still
Infant.
at the infant stage. Yes.
Yeah. Like I heard some news with the UST and even I think SGV is on in on it. and even I think Tesla. I'm not sure if it is Tesla, but they're creating sort of like a Philippine AI roadmap.
Yes.
Yeah, and trying to create more people to be engaged in AI.
Yeah. Actually, about that, I've also looked into that. Again, it starts with an appreciation of data. No,
Mm,
before you can actually work with AI, you should first be comfortable with being a data analyst, and then
mm,
working with the data to becoming a data engineer. Essentially, AI engineers are data engineers. No, so
mm.
that's very crucial, and we still have I'd say a deficit in terms of the number of people who are capable of doing that because it's a very very complex discipline.
Yeah, actually a lot of. I think even in FEU we have a data sort of business analytics track. UNP has one. I think in UP you have one also, and of course AIM has the Masters of Data Science. But I think there's some very very good interest already from at least the academe.
Oh yeah,
I
definitely.
think they recognize that there is, as you said, there's this specific deficit of AI scientists or at least data engineers in the country.
Yeah, and then actually AIM, I would say, is actually at the forefront of that right now. I mean, they've done really well with the MSDS program. They've trained I think 2 or 3 batches already of data scientists. So it's really great. The only question then becomes what problems will they solve? And
Correct,
that's
correct,
the beauty about AI. The AI is again, it's a very powerful tool. The only question is what problem do you want to solve with that tool?
correct, correct. Okay, thanks for that. Okay. Francis Lampong is asking, since we're in a time wherein the pandemic is still thriving, can AI be used for contract tracing and how?
Contact tracing, that's very tricky. Again, contact tracing again starts from data.
Yeah.
And it that's why again very very true actually to this example is the concept or the principle rather of garbage in garbage out.
Yeah, yeah.
Problem with contact tracing data right now is that it's very it's pretty much all over the place. No, you're getting contact tracing information in silos, and people are collecting it in very different ways. And just seeing it as a shopper, no, it actually frustrates me then because like for example, I go into a mall and then I have to fill out a contact tracing form on in Starbucks. I go to another
Yeah.
establishment, it's a totally different form again.
Yeah.
And while there are similarities, there are also some differences. So it's that in itself now, the data captured is very different. So you're working with
Tama.
different data sets.
Yeah, tapos
So
manual lahat, no?
manual lahat, no? Some are going kind of digital, but it's still manual input. Diba? Like the only digital aspect is that it's an online form.
Google form.
Yeah, yeah. You scan the QR code, fill it out online. That's it. But the mere fact that there are differences in the way it is collected and the fields that are being asked for the data input, that in itself gives you a real mess of a data set that you'll be working with. So how do we apply AI for that? First and foremost, I would say you gotta unify that. You have to standardize the data collection, standardize the process, the questions, the data input, put them all into a centralized data lake, and then work with that.
Bakit nga ba? Like, actually, I'm very curious with this. I'm sure, like, countries like South Korea, countries like more advanced countries have some sort of standardized data collection for COVID-19. And sila, what I've heard is that what do you call this, DOH,
Mm-hmm.
working with Stephanie of
Thinking machines.
taking machines, yeah, to
Yeah.
sort of fix the data. But tama ka, Ralph, eh. Like, kailangan may central database. Bakit, ano ba nangyayari? Bakit wala? Bakit nga ba?
Um, I don't know how to answer this without sounding political, no?
Just do it.
Because the thing about it is it's coming from everywhere. Like I said, it's coming from it's all over the place precisely because it's coming from everywhere. Then You have DOH taking their own initiative. You have even the PNP doing their own initiative. You have local government units doing their own initiatives. So it's different proponents, different approaches, different methodologies, different data. No. The only way I see it is to centralize it, have it initiated by only one point of authority that will
IATF dapat yan eh.
sorry.
IATF dapat, di ba?
Yeah, IATF dapat no. They have to do it on their own, bring everything together, and with the amount of data that's been captured today, I can imagine the data cleaning would be a real nightmare if you're going to consolidate everything from all the different sources.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing. It's not just about. I mean, data cleaning. It becomes a pain if the data collection is problematic in the first place.
Yeah.
So I'd say start from there. Fix the data collection so that you don't have to. So that the data cleaning wouldn't be much of a headache anymore.
So let's say we do have a good data collection process. Let's say it's centralized.
Mm.
So can AI be applied to the data we've collected and how
Uh,
to apply it?
Well, it depends on what the intention is. What's the end goal? No, because simply put, and I'm trying to. I have to ask for your pardon. Then I'm not a technical person, as you may have heard. I, excuse me. I'm I'm from a business background actually,
Yeah.
and not from engineering. But in simple terms, no, what you do with AI kasi or machine learning is that you get a certain data set, provided you get the right amount, no, and then you build your algorithm, your code to learn from that data set and churn out certain output that you want based on how you programmed it, diba? So it's pretty much it. That's why I say the possibilities are actually endless when it comes to AI, as long as you're clear on what output you want and you know the right data that will actually give you that output. So, in the case of contact tracing, for example, depends. How do you want to use contact tracing data in the first place? What's your end goal? If the end goal is, let's say, to identify which areas are highly infected because people are coming from other areas. No? If you want to find that tracing, saan sila nanggagaling? Diba? Kunyari, let's say in a certain city, let's say city A, sobrang taas ng infection, but it's not because of the residents, it's actually people who are working there that are coming from other cities.
Yeah.
Then that data will be very crucial for that. And AI can actually answer that question. Where is the infection coming from?
Right.
I mean, it was a big nightmare. Everyone was shocked when DOH came out with a statement that we don't know where the infection is coming from anymore. It's coming from everywhere. It's because of the lack of data.
Yeah.
Because the data is all over the place. Hindi pala lack of data. It's because of the mess of the data that they have that they can't answer it anymore. Where is it coming from? Oh my God, it's coming from everywhere.
Yeah. 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 Someone has to do something about it. I think since Stephanie's working with DOH, she should probably, try to tell them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. So Jolo M. Palmado was asking. Actually, I'm a bit curious about this also, but I'm sure you'd know more about this Ralph. No. So, is it really possible that an AI can take over the job of a human completely? I think sila Elon Musk and Jack Ma had actually sort of like a debate here, like a few months ago. It talked about this and why perhaps AI can or cannot completely replace humans in the workplace.
Mm-mm. Okay. The thing about AI, again, it's garbage in, garbage out. That in itself makes the human component very crucial because you still need humans to get the right data and clean it to make sure that you have the right quality of the data. Because the harsh reality about data collection is, even if you have the right methodology, the right collection, there can still be outliers or problems in the full data set in its totality. So there still needs to be cleaning. No? The data cleaning will always be there. It's only a question of how complex the data cleaning will be, and that's
Mm-hmm.
dependent on the data collection. No? So that
Mm-hmm.
in itself very important, yung human component for AI. Second, what AI can do is it will churn out the results or act based on how you program it. So
Yeah.
again, human component to program, what do I want to come out from this AI engine in the first place? Or what do I want it to do for me? Diba? So human component will also dictate that. And then that is also defined by the knowledge base, by the domain expertise, which comes from humans as well. Diba?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, no, we have a client that we have this retailer, a client of ours, that told us that getting the data that we are able to provide is one thing. They can already valuable for them, but making sense out of the data, understanding what that means for them, is completely different, and it's even more valuable. No? So AI can give you more of, let's say, just to simplify, no, A plus B equals C. That's all it
Mm-hmm.
will really tell you. But what does C mean? Or what can C do for me? That is where a person with the domain expertise will come in. So that's why AI, I will say, can never completely replace the human component when it comes to work. No, what it can replace lang is the very routinary, repetitive work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually more in the realm of automation than
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
So, yung mga automating the filing process, actually, those automation, again, it's not necessarily AI. AI
Mm-hmm.
component, if you add an engine to actually read the text, so that's
Yeah.
AI. Mga
Yeah.
ganun. But that's pretty much it. That could, yung mga ganun paulit-ulit lang, that can be replaced. But the more high level, more complex cognitive disciplines, that
Mm-hmm.
cannot be replaced.
Okay.
Actually, it becomes more important now.
That's a very good answer. I think you answered better than Jack Ma, or Elon. No.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. I never imagined that.
okay, Ralph. Ralph, another question coming from Ralph.
Oh,
So, okay. It seems like every company is getting in trend to use AI and machine learning in their product service in the time of pandemic. How do you evaluate how quote unquote good a company's AI is?
how well is it performing based on expectations? So, what do you intend the AI to do? What results do you want? Or what activities do you want the AI to be able to do? And I would say set KPIs for it. For us, it's as simple as how much is the accuracy. Diba? That alone is a very crucial
Accuracy.
KPI for AI. Diba? So if you're hitting that accuracy level or whatever KPI you put, no, it could be efficiency, it could be accuracy, but you have to be clear on what your KPIs are and how well the AI is hitting those KPIs. That's pretty much it. It's just like performance management for people. Diba? It's just the same. You set targets, you set goals, KPIs for people that you're managing, and then you assess their performance. How well are they able to hit those targets?
Mm,
Ganun lang din naman with AI.
okay.
Yeah.
So for example, as a spectator in the public,
Hello, sorry.
as a spectator sa public,
Okay.
like for example, me, I don't know anything about AI. I don't know all the metrics of AI. How would I sort of measure or feel that the AI algorithm employed by X company is doing its job.
It goes back to the experience. No?
Okay.
So, kunyari, as a consumer, no?
Yeah.
Let's say as a consumer of Netflix, look at the
Okay.
recommendations Netflix is giving you. Is it really some? Are they really giving you recommendations that you would like?
Mm.
Di ba? If all the recommendations would fall like, oh, I mean, this is really interesting for me. This does make sense to me. I really want to watch this. I'd say if you would watch at least 50% of the recommendations, then I'd say it's really doing well.
Okay.
Actually, not 50%, at least 51%. Kasi if pag 50-50, parang hit or miss pa din yan. So
Yeah.
above 50% of those recommendations, then it's doing its job well.
Yeah.
Then again, it's again based on the data that you're feeding into it. So as we know naman, Netflix more often than not is actually shared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Diba? So if you have other users using your same profile, then you can expect na
Sabo.
mali-mali din yung makukuha mo
Yeah.
recommendations.
Yeah.
So that's basically how you could gauge how well the engine is going. But it's still dependent on the data that you put in kasi.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Okay, a couple of questions from one person, which I want to highlight. There's a stream of questions already coming in, but this one is specifically for career. No, this one is actually a very biblical name, Jehoshaphat.
Wow,
Yeah,
Jehoshaphat. I
yeah,
love that name.
yeah,
I love the story of Jehoshaphat. He didn't have to go to battle.
yeah,
Okay. Sorry, I just remember that. Okay. Anyway, you were saying?
yeah. Okay, so he has four questions. I'll start with this first one. Is there an internship program that can be used as a gateway to be an AI engineer?
We don't have a program, but we definitely welcome interns. I'd love to meet you. I flashed my details kanina, but maybe we could keep in touch naman. You could just email me. It's RT Layosa, Romeo Tango, Lima Alpha Yankee Oscar Sierra Alpha at retailgate.tech so that we could keep in touch. Then let's see what we can do. I'd love to take in some interns because we have some things that we'd love to
Explore.
explore then.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I'll take a crack at this question. Jehoshaphat, I think the Innovation Center is trying to set up an AI program with the UST. Apart from that, we're also trying to create and set up an AI lab because the research agenda, as we want to push, of FEU Tech will be artificial intelligence and data science because we know that this will be, the industry would need AI engineers, data scientists more than ever. No? And this also gives way perhaps to some areas of cybersecurity. But yeah, so watch out for that. I'm not sure what year you're in. But yeah, so watch out for that particular program. We're setting it up, and perhaps we'll get Retailgate on board.
Yeah, I'd love to collaborate on that because we do need more talent then. And
Yeah.
we can learn from each other and then in the process.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so same person. Next question: can I eventually be an AI engineer through my IT undergrad degree, or should I switch to computer science?
Depends. I'm not sure kasi what your curriculum is. No? But even outside of the curriculum, if you have that passion for data,
Hmm.
then AI is something that you can do. No? So when I say passion for data, kasi in the realm of AI, no, it's either you take the track of becoming a data scientist or a data engineer. So
Mhm.
what's the key difference there? Data engineer is really more in the programming direction, whereas data scientist is it's really a scientific discipline. So it's really identifying what the problem is, identifying what the solution will be, and then understanding what the results are, interpreting the results. Yeah, so that's the data science direction. So I'd say ask yourself, what do you want? What direction are you taking? Do you want to be more into the programming side, or do you want to be more of the scientific side? And then once you answer that question, then look into your curriculum. Was your curriculum actually enabling you to take that direction?
Good, good. Is a PhD necessary to be an AI engineer?
Sorry, what?
Is a PhD necessary to be an AI engineer?
No, no, no. My AI engineer is a graduate of CompEng.
Mm,
Oo. And hindi naman siya nagma-masters.
mm.
Also, yung from AIM, they have masters in data science, but it's
No
not a
need.
PhD.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Okay. Okay, so yeah, actually, even like for example, si Raf, diba, he's in AI, his business is in AI. But I think it goes back to his first answer that when you're passionate about data, regardless of what background you're in, you
yeah.
can land in one of these two roles, or even as the entrepreneur of an AI company like Raf. Diba? His background is in business ad, no Raf, or
Yes.
BAA,
Business ad.
business ad. So business ad si Raf, no. But so again, I think getting into AI, or at least in general into a specific discipline, doesn't really require PhD, right? As long as you're passionate about it, and you're really interested, you'll find a way. Now, if you really want to delve into the technical deep research for this particular field, then perhaps you might want to consider a PhD. But if you want to run an AI or data science company, there will be other people do it for you. Number one, number two, information, you can just talk to Ralph about it, and perhaps he's AI engineer, and he can lead you to the right path. Okay, he has a lot of questions, but I want to jump into another question. Okay, all right. This is very interesting. This is from Gabrielle. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
how do you pitch Retailgate to other small retailers, knowing it might cost them a bit to have access and support for this?
Okay, that's a sales question.
Yes, it is. Yeah, BS IT to. BS IT ang track niya.
Actually, it's with the sales journey then kasi. So even before we step into the door or make contact, we qualify muna. So we have to make sure we don't want to waste anyone's time. So we have to qualify before we approach a prospect. Are their revenues enough? Are they also financially healthy enough to be able to afford something that what we're offering? But even in the first, more so, also we have to ask the question: is this something that will actually answer a need for them? So if it's not something that they need, then it's not it will just end up wasting both our times. So it starts there talaga. It's really more of prospecting first before we get there. Now once we qualify and we know that okay, they can afford it and they actually have a need for it, then that's when we start showing them, okay, this is what we've done before. This is the then therefore this is the potential, but we want to understand how do you want to use it. So it's more flipping the script. It's not just telling them what we can do, but it's more of let's explore together.
Yeah.
What is your need? How can we help you? That's how
Mm.
we approach our clients.
Okay. Awesome, awesome. Actually, okay yung that answer. I think like if this person perhaps would want to be an entrepreneur, um, and you can learn a lot from Ralph. He's a experienced entrepreneur already. But yeah, I think in general, especially when you're in B2B sales, you gotta qualify your
Yes.
prospect first, no? So there's a lot of discovery. The discovery phase should be a very tight process. The
Mhm.
discovery, customer discovery phase. And then after that, I think the pitching part kasi is the easiest, to be honest. But the pre-closing is the hardest. But once you've done it, I think you're 60% there in the sales journey.
Yeah. Actually, you're right. The discovery part is the hardest part. Pitching is actually the easiest part. You just really have to present.
Yeah.
But then it becomes challenging again because once you get them to
Implementation.
say yes, it doesn't end there.
Yeah.
So yeah, accounts management is a completely different challenge then, and really building that relationship. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, correct, correct. Okay, Patrick Ching is asking, this is a question from Facebook. What are the differences in research nature between machine learning and data mining?
Oh, that's a very technical question. I'm not sure if I can really answer it sufficiently, ano? But essentially, kasi data mining is the data collection. Diba?
Mhm.
So, when you say data mining, it's really more of identifying what parameters of data you want to be able to capture, and then you just look at what the data is telling you.
Yeah.
Whereas machine learning is actually getting data, telling the algorithm to understand what that data means,
Hmm.
and then tell you something else out of it. For
Right.
example, for us, we're essentially, we've trained our engine to tell us in the video that you're looking at, that it's looking at, alin dun yung tao.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's the difference. Versus data mining, it's really just getting massive amounts of data and then looking at, let's say, a dashboard or a number of charts. What is the data telling me?
Hmm.
Versus an engine that will actually tell you something that you cannot really plot out of the chart from the raw data that you input.
Mm. Mm. Okay, cool, cool. Sige. Sorry, Raf, ang daming questions. I think there's a lot of interest with this, and perhaps
What?
you might, get a few interns from here. Um, there are people in the Startup Academy. So this is our incubation program in partnership with AI MDBI. It's actually going to start next week. No, the first we are actually expecting around 300 to 500 students to go through the Startup Academy. Because what we did know, this is now a new OJT track. So instead of doing the actual OJT, the previous OJT, as you know, diba, you work for a big company, etc. And Janina mentioned earlier, the Startup Academy is the track for you to become your own boss. No? So, and for you to start your own company. No? So this person is asking, as a Startup Academy intern, is it possible to have a mentor in developing a simple AI in a website or mobile app? So the answer there is yes. No? So we have a couple of AI mentors that will be available in the Startup Academy. We're just trying to fix the schedules. But I think Ralph, no, will also be able to speak here and there during the incubation program. We actually haven't invited Ralph yet, but if you may, no, if actually inviting you on air right now. No?
Yeah, did not expect that. Let's see.
Yeah, so if ever, Ralph, no, we're happy to have you on board if ever you have time. I'm sure you're very busy with your company, but to spend a session or two with the Startup Academy founders to talk about AI more and further explore this particular talk. No?
Sure.
Awesome. So yeah, and, we got Ralph on board to get a few sessions for the Startup Academy. Okay, so anonymous question: what can you advise to the future entrepreneur that will help them to benefit AI in the future? So I think this is a question who's a person like you during college. You know? So I'm interested in AI, but I haven't started it yet. No? So what would you advise someone who wants to start AI as a startup?
The very first question will really be, what problem do you want to solve?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's all starts from there. What problem do you want to solve? And understand whose problem is it? Why is it a problem for them? Really
Mhm.
dig deep. Like I said earlier, empathy. Why is that a problem for them in the first place? No? And then once you understand that and answer those questions, then the question becomes, how will you solve it? No. Again, like I said, AI is not necessarily the solution to everything, because sometimes when you dig deeper and deeper, you might realize maybe there are other solutions. Maybe AI is not the solution, or it might be too complex, and you might end up building something too complex, or too much of your taking too much of your effort, but you can actually do it a different way. No, but it always starts, and not to discourage anyone from taking AI, no, I'm just saying it still starts from answering that question: what is the problem you want to solve in the first place, diba? And then have that empathy from whoever you want to be your client, your customer, diba? And then once you answer those two questions, and let's say you find that okay, AI really is the way to answer that solution, that problem, then what capabilities will you need? Can you do it on your own? Do you need a partner? In my case, again, I'm from a business background. I know the problem. I know the pain point. I understood why it was a problem, but I didn't have the technical capability. So I looked for a co-founder, and that's
Mm,
what my that's the role of my co-founder now. So he takes care of the technology side, the AI side. I take care of the business side. So I'm a firm believer of no man is an island. You really can't do it on your own. So
yeah.
find the right partner, find the right co-founders. No,
Mm,
and for me, the biggest principle there always is values over talent. Values are always non-negotiable. Make sure that whoever you partner with is someone that you share the same values with. Because kahit gaano pa kagaling yan, but if you have problems or mismatch in values, you will always clash, and it's gonna be a toxic relationship.
yeah. Actually, I've experienced this in my own
I learned
startup.
it the hard way then.
Talaga? Ano ba, what's your story there? If you don't mind sharing.
Let's just say when we were starting, we were supposed to be seven, and then we cut down to three
How come?
because of one very toxic person.
Mm, mm,
So it was really that. That's how I learned it the hard way. We realized it lang later on. We had very opposing values, and that's when we realized we had to part ways.
mm, mm. Okay. Well, when was this? A few years back?
2017, when that same when I was still a student nga nun eh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Okay. This is from Kay. Uh, as an entrepreneur, what advice can you give to people, particularly those into creating their own startup company? At, actually, I don't understand the question, but I'll just go through it. Perhaps you can interpret it with me. Particularly those into creating their startup company at times when problems arise in data gathering or even in team relationships. So I think nasagot mo na to, no? So how did you manage these things in your own company? So let's start first with data gathering and then relationships.
Well, data gathering kasi is it's it's based on what you want the AI to do, diba? So um example is to oversimplify it na lang, ano. If you want, let's say, that engine to define among images na which of these images contain apples and which of them do not contain apples, no, then definitely you would feed images with apples. You wouldn't want to feed it images with oranges. It's basically that. You have to be clear. What is the objective of the AI engine in the first place? What is its purpose? And then that is what will define how you should collect the data, or in the first place, what data you should collect.
To begin
And then
with.
once you define what data to collect, you have to anticipate where could be the problems in the data collection, and then how will you address that.
Mm, mm. I think, Ralph, no, you've been harping on since kayo pa, like the data collection side. Um, and perhaps this is a very important point for everyone. If you don't have a good data collection process or you don't know why you're collecting data to begin with, AI will not solve anything.
you you'll drown in the data, and you just end up with very bad results.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't know if this is, I don't know it. This is an apt tawag dito, comparison. But the thing about kasi with AI, you train it, and then you have to make sure you have to test the accuracy of your results from the
Mm.
AI, and chances are you will also still get false positives, false negatives. So kaya ko sinabi, parang it's just like the rapid test. The rapid test.
Uh,
You get a lot of false positives. Precisely because that in itself, no, it's actually looking for the wrong thing. You want to detect a virus, but what the rapid test is detecting is the antibodies. Diba? But the antibodies that the body generates, it generates the same antibodies for a common flu as the same antibodies versus the coronavirus. Diba? So, yung palang mali na yung dinedetect niya. Kaya mali din yung nilalabas na result. And mali din yung nagiging interpretation. So, that's why it boils down to understanding what do you need to look for in the first place.
Mm, mm, tama. A lot of companies right now, and because I'm into innovation consulting, Ralph, no? Like for example, client X, they were asking, okay, oh, let's do blockchain now, let's do blockchain. So this bank, no. But I was telling them, um, just because blockchain is the in thing right now, it doesn't mean it's going to solve problems for your customer.
That's the common track for any new technology.
Yeah, kasi they wanna be in, I don't know, I don't know, they wanna feel, they wanna sound like innovating perhaps for marketing purposes. But yeah, so knowing the purpose, number one, of that emerging tech. Number two, knowing how it can actually be better for your company and the client should be the first priority.
Yes.
AI will not is not a silver bullet for these things. No? So tama si Ralph, no? Knowing the objectives first is very very important. Okay, dahil pa rin questions, Ralph. Sobrang benta mo, bro. Oh.
Talaga ba? Thank you.
Um,
Roland, okay lang ba? I saw this question. I'd like to address this very crucial
yes.
from
Go ahead.
Daveren Gumbao.
Yeah.
Just to share, he says in data gathering, didn't Mark Zuckerberg encounter a problem because he allegedly sold information to businesses for the ads? So the point is, isn't this type of data gathering having privacy issues? Is this kind of data gathering okay? Isn't this kind of problem bad for businesses because you are harming your customers?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the type of data that you're capturing, no? And what you use the data for. So the problem with that issue with Facebook is they were gathering information, personal information to be specific, without express consent from the users or without being clear to the customer or to the end users what what it will be used for. And that's where the whole concept of data privacy actually comes in. No? It's very important that if you are going to capture personal information, you get consent, and the consent comes from an understanding of what you will use the data for. Now, you might be asking, how about in our case, a retail game? We're capturing videos, no? And we're processing from videos. The thing about us, you might have noticed, I never mentioned that we're using facial recognition because we're not. We're not using facial recognition precisely in respect of data privacy. Because we do not store facial data, we do not identify people through their faces. We are simply saying at a certain given time, ilan yung tao sa isang lugar na to, gaano katagal sila nandun. Simple as that. And that's also why we can actually count people even without seeing their faces. Yun yung maganda naman din with the way we developed our AI engine. So that's why it really boils down again to what data are you capturing, what is your objective, how will you use it, how will you use the data to achieve that objective. So if you are going to be using AI to gather personal information, very crucial, especially with the data privacy law, make sure that you gain express consent, and that consent is coming from your those giving consent having a clear understanding of how you will use the data. And that you also give them the freedom to decline the collection of their data or to delete the data recorded from them. So there should always be that leeway.
I think this is the issue with Cambridge Analytica.
Yes.
2 years ago, 3 years ago, or more.
Yeah. I mean, It's a matter of ano din kasi talaga what data you capture and ethics. It's really ethics now. Actually, I know a guy. He he did exactly the same in
Mm.
for the local ano naman for local politicians. I won't say who, but he's actually not from the Philippines now. But he actually did the exact same thing. But that's why I don't work with him because I'm also questioning this guy's scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pero, it's really the data is there. The question is what will you do about it? And again, that's why I would also say very crucial. What are your values, diba? And if the people you're working with, what are their values, and how well do you stick to your values? That's also
Mm.
very important.
Yeah. Actually, that's a crucial point. A lot of startups fail because of co-founder management or issues with the founding team.
Yes.
I've had this with my first startup. My co-founder, again, different values. He was more of the marketing guy. He wants to look cool, etc. But I didn't want that, no. So, but then we clashed in terms even for what money to spend and what like how much to spend it on, right? And all these values if you're gonna start a business, especially for those who are startup academy interns, no, you will get a chance to pick your co-founder within the program. So better be sort of sure, no, that kasundo mo yung co-founder mo. Because even if the idea is very good, or to be honest nga, for me the idea is not really that important, because if the founding team is able to execute well, then the startup will thrive, no? But no matter how good your idea is and the founding team is, I'll put it bluntly, is sucks, no. So it's not gonna go very far, no? Perhaps you're gonna win some competitions here and there, but for after that, execution, revenue, and all these things further on afterward, it won't work out. So yeah, I think yeah, go.
I don't know. Is it alright if I give a little idea, a suggestion for that?
Yes, yes.
Kasi that's a topic that I feel strongly about then about co-founders, no? Finding the right co-founders. If kaya ng program, I would actually recommend don't stick to just to like whoever you got sa simula yun na agad you agree and you set it in stone. One thing that we startups always do is proof of concept. Why don't we do that for co-founders as well? Diba? Test the waters muna because it's easy to say, oh, kasundo ko to. Pero when things get rough, biglang, ay, may ganitong side pala tong taong to. Patay. Diba? So, I would recommend, if you have a co-founder proof of concept type of execution, diba? Let them pair up and then give it a month or two. Let them go through some challenges. If they go through and then no problems, then they could evaluate, are we right, are we a right match? Baka hindi. Diba? Or that's also they would see, uy, baka may kulang pa pala tayo. Then that's when you realize, oh, we might have to find someone else.
Yeah.
So that might be something you might want to explore. Kasi that's what I wish we had before.
Isip ko tuloy how I would do that. No, kasi tama ka, even I myself, I had to learn it the hard way. I lost a lot of money because of that.
Exactly.
I'm sure you lost a lot of time, resources, and financials also when you went through that in Retailgate. But yeah, so that's a very good idea. Thanks for that, Raf. Janina, Maylene, let's take note of that. Let's put that into the program. We'll think of ways how to do that. But yeah, thank you very much. Okay, next questions. Probably I'll ask two more. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah. Not unless you have a question you want to answer in the chat box. Actually, you can pick if you want.
Go ask mo na, then I'll just look if I'll see if there are other questions that I could answer pa.
Sige. So I'll ask this. No? If you start an AI business, I'm very curious with this also. No? Apart from manpower, syempre, sweldo and even equity, no? How much do you need to start with that business? No? Magkano ang Like, ano ba yung usual na, is there a special software, like a cloud server database? I don't know. Like, ano nga ba ang gastos when you have an AI company?
I can't answer unless you tell me what you want to do. It
Okay.
depends. Kasi it depends what kind of AI engine you want to do and how do you want to do it. Do you want to build it yourself? Do you want to just utilize cognitive services in the cloud? Depends. No? So
Mm,
that's it. And what engine, cognitive service or engine do you want to use? Kasi iba-iba yung presyohan yan eh. Yeah. In our case, we found it better to build it ourselves instead of just using other ano kasi simply because the available cognitive engines are face detection based. Yeah.
mm,
So we realized teka, one thing Norolan actually very interesting we learned this while doing a project,
mm,
we noticed that you really won't get a face when you're capturing from CCTVs. Why? Because people are always looking down, downward direction. Bakit? Because they're always on their phones.
mm,
Pagpasok ng store, nakikita namin they're on their phones.
mm,
Either they're on their phones or they're looking at merchandise. You won't see a
mm,
face. Yeah.
mm.
And that's why we did we and it was actually we realized even more na tama yung ginawa namin that we built our own engine because we are able to tweak it that way. But of course, that's a more costly approach. No, we were just really blessed kasi we got a grant from DOST to be able to build this engine.
Interesting. So let's say ganito, Raf. Ako magko-consult ako sa'yo. So, we're doing, kasi I'm in AIM right now. So, our capstone is about, so we're in MSIB, we need to build a startup, another one, no? So I was thinking of doing like a home cooking, data-driven home cooking platform. No? So personalized recipe recommendations, even knowing that your pantry knowing or your phone knowing even before you're cognizant of it that this specific ingredient is almost out. So yung mga ganon. So it's kitchen management. So it's a B2C model. Like what are the resources I would need to be able to number one capture that data and of course code it or syempre yung coding manpower na yun, no? So,
Mm.
so paano yan? Like ano ba? Servers, database yung sinasabi mo kanina na
Wait, so I just want to understand muna, what's the
yeah.
experience you want to create?
So from personalized recipe recommendations,
So your customer is
you
any
let, let's say ako nagluluto ako sa bahay.
okay,
Ganon.
so any household Juan
Household.
or ano,
Yeah.
Maria who wants to cook at home.
Yes, yes. So,
Okay, not necessarily a recipe as in like trying to go gourmet.
well as much as possible we want to do that.
So more on gourmet. So it's really so actually that changes the profile. You're sitting.
Talaga?
Oh, kasi iba yung profile ng tao who wants to cook to make gourmet recipes versus someone who just wants to cook a simple adobo or sinigang.
Mm.
Diba? So that tells me na you no, it you go closer to who your market is, diba? It's a smaller circle, diba? And then so from that you want to be able to what give them personalized recipes.
Yeah. So for example, so let's say Maria is a mom
Okay.
and she has to cook for her kids.
Okay.
Every night and she runs out of recipes to cook, right? So but then she knows that ito gusto ng anak number 1, anak number 2, anak number 3. Ito yung gusto ng husband ko, ganyan. So and ayaw nilang paulit-ulit na lang. So they need like yung mga taste profile ng family na yun, mga ganun.
Okay. So you'll definitely need the preference history.
Okay.
So I would say what are the if you give a menu of the recipes available what you have and then choose let them choose, di ba? Maybe you could even get them to rate it, and then from that you just get a recommendation engine to
Mm.
see ano, okay, based on this, ito yung gusto mo, then you might be interested in these types of recipes. So let's say kung mahilig ka sa ano, sa let's say kunyari for simple terms na sa nilagang baka, then you might want to try bulalo naman.
Mm.
So they're related, di ba?
Yeah.
So it also depends then how do you set the parameters. What constitutes a recipe that is related to another recipe? What constitutes the
Ah,
relationship? So you need to have that that domain expertise to define those parameters. Now,
interesting.
what you said about the rest, like components of the recipe and understanding kung may parang you said something about updating kung paubos na yung recipe, yung ingredients or not.
Yeah, yeah, that's a totally different.
That's a
Fancy,
totally
man.
different thing.
Yeah.
That's very complex kasi you need to get means of capturing yung inventory niya. That's inventory management.
Yeah.
It's either i-input manually yun or at best you have a sensor, but that's gonna complicate things.
Yeah. Kasi may hardware software component na.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Samsung is doing that with their refs.
Yeah, I understand. They're doing some sensors, but it's more of like I've seen before kasi ganun para smart ref, but there are specific slots kasi. So you have specific slots for eggs, specific slot for milk. So pag may laman, yun. Pag wala, yun.
Yeah, gets. Okay, so usually server lang yan, server costs. Siyempre, once you pinpoint already what parameters you want, server costs manpower usually.
Yes.
Okay, gets.
Mm.
So yun, I think that answers your question, whoever asked that. I forgot their name. But yeah, so one last question, Ralph.
Sure.
Do you have anything in mind in the chat box you want to answer? Or
Wait lang. Kasi iba kasi medyo nasagot na natin earlier.
I'm also looking.
How will you know if you need? How will you know if you need or if it's a necessity, I guess, to have an AI in a big company or business?
Yeah.
In question. How do you know? First and foremost, do you have the data for it? So if you don't have, if you want to use AI but you don't have the data for it, then the AI won't be able to use. So for us, for example, it's as simple as kung walang CCTV camera at ayaw nila kumuha ng CCTV camera, then hindi magagamit yung AI engine namin.
Yeah.
And then of course, again, like what I've been saying earlier, what's the objective? What do you want to be able to discover or create? Then that will define your direction on whether or not kailangan ba talaga AI or can it be done by a simple automation tool or simple digital tool or baka nga kahit website lang. Sometimes may mga ganon. Really depends on what your objective is.
I think to answer this also, the company needs to know if they do need AI to begin with. Kasi nga, like sabi mo kayo na Ralph, like, well, baka pwedeng Excel lang. Di ba? Or some automation tool in as a website. No? So the mere fact that they don't know means that they should, means that they're perhaps not ready for AI yet.
Yes.
But if you're asking as a vendor, so baka kasi ang lens niya is, okay, I want to start an AI company, but then how would I know if company X would need that? Kasi ganun yung question niya eh.
Okay.
So yeah, I think first yung sabi nga ni Ralph kanina, no, kung if they have data to begin with, and if they have a problem that perhaps can be solved by AI. So you need to know first what problems AI can solve to begin with, assuming that data collection processes are good. I don't know, Ralph, if I'm answering this.
Yeah, tama. Wait, sorry. There's another question here that captured my attention lang. Okay lang ba? I'll answer this one.
Yeah.
Kasi hindi niya lagay name niya, but it says business major student from FEU Diliman. So I I think I was where this guy was before.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the question was, Sir Rafael, how did you interact with the engineers that you were partnered with when you first started the idea of Retailgate? How were you able to use your specialty in business when everything about Retailgate was still in its infancy? Okay, first and foremost, you have to understand what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. Because when you know what your weakness is or what your limitation is, then that's where you recognize the strengths of the other. So for example, sa akin, I know my strength is in business, in marketing, understanding what the problem is, understanding the strategy needed for it, and ano yung essentially having that empathy with the client, no, and client relations. That's my strength, no. Pero when it comes to the technical side, that's where I cannot do justice anymore because I don't know anything about coding, di ba? That's where my partner comes in. That's where he comes in with the technical technical expertise. No?
Mm,
And we see eye to eye on that. We recognize that. He knows my strength is in business, so he doesn't touch on that. I know his strength is in technology, so I don't touch on that then. So we respect our own strengths and weaknesses, but more importantly, it's about understanding how we can complement one another.
mm,
Diba? So simply put, between business and engineer, trabaho ng business person, I will solve the problems with the technology that the engineer can build. Diba?
mm,
And the engineer's is responsibility is to build the solutions to the problems that the clients, the business person will bring in.
mm.
So, to make it simple, as a business person, ito problema, ano kaya mong i-build? Bibenta ko yan. Yun yung role natin.
Tama, tama. Okay. I think, Ralph, we've answered a lot of questions, and I think we need to do a session number two in the next. Kasi ang dami, especially when we already put up the AI lab, or even start, formally creating the AI program. You'll be one of our people, I think, can relate. Kasi you started during college and you're still young, but you've already done a lot of things in AI, and you're one of the pioneers in the Philippines. So perhaps, we can have this conversation again.
Sure.
Um,
Mm.
yeah. So for those students whose questions weren't answered by us, by Ralph, most especially, perhaps you can enter the Startup Academy. If you do want to learn about AI startups or even how to create your own startup, please choose the Startup Academy as your internship track. This is in partnership with the AIM Dado Banatao Incubator, one of the most successful incubators in the country, and will help you if you have an idea, whether it be AI, whatever emerging technology. Will give you the resources you need to be able to build your company. Okay, so with that, I will give you back to our host, our programs head, Janina na po.
Thank you so much, Roland and Ralph, for a very informative session. I hope that
Thank you.
our attendees, our students, is able to deepen their learning and appreciation about artificial intelligence. Of course, 2 hours is very short because I know our speakers still have a lot to share. But too bad our time is very limited. But we hope this was a good platform for us to start more conversation and collaboration. So again, maraming salamat, Ralph, for joining us this morning. And we would also like to thank the following individuals and institutions for their support for the FEU Tech Innovation and Entrepreneurship Directorate, our Attorney Jana Montinola, our Senior Vice President for Corporate Affairs of FEU and co-founder of Hands on Manila, Dr. Benson Tan, our Senior Executive Director for FEU Institute of Technology, Mr. Primpay Pon, the AAM Dado Banatao Incubator Executive Director, FEU Tech Computing Services Office, and we would like to thank everyone who attended today's session. So again, TechX is happening every first Wednesday of the month. We would also like to take this opportunity to invite our students to join the Association of Student Technopreneurs and Innovators, or ASTI. It is a newly established student organization promoting, supporting, and developing passion for innovation and technopreneurship. So for interested students, you may visit their official Facebook page at facebook.com/FETech ASTI or ASTI. So we encourage everyone to follow us on our official Facebook page for all our event announcement and updates. It's at FEU Innovation Center. Let me also remind everyone to please complete the post-event survey to claim your digital certificate. So see you in our next event, Unmask. It is happening on the third week of September third Wednesday of the month, September 16, where we are going to feature again another inspiring tech entrepreneur. Again, thank you for participating and may you all have a good day.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph.